All right, welcome to today's episode of Your Daily Scrum. Todd, how you doing?
I almost could see like the microphone hanging down, like you're in the middle of the boxing ring or something like that.
Nah, not today. I think today we're going to get along just fine. I'm just pumped, man. It's a good week. It's a good day. We're getting a lot of good work done. We're seeing some teams do great classes. It's just, it's a good day in Scrum land.
It is a great day in Scrum land.
All right, what do we got? We got a great question from our very good friend, Daniel Vacanti.
Yeah.
There's been a Scrum guide change. There's been a language change, and we wanted to talk through that. And I thought it was a good question that came from Dan as we were chatting one day. And he said, so how deep of a plan do we create in sprint planning? And Todd, maybe you can give the background of what really spurred this question.
Yeah, in Scrum Guide 2017, the phrase work plan for this is an excerpt from Scrum Guide 2017. Let me start that over again. Work plan for the first days of the sprint by the development team is decomposed by the end of this meeting, often to units of 1 day or less. That's in reference to the sprint planning. So work plan for the first few days, right? Daniel said, that's not in Scrum Guide 2020 anymore. Should we be careful about this? Should we be watching? And I don't, it made me think. And that's why we're doing this episode, is that by no means does Scrum Guide 2020 imply that you should leave this meeting with an exhaustive, discrete plan for every second of your sprint, right? So I think we need to maybe circle back and just talk about this a little bit and talk about how much of a plan are we expected to have when we leave sprint planning.
Yeah.
Right?
It's interesting. I've always looked at this as just enough of a plan, the smallest plan that's the most responsible in getting us started. It's just the least responsible amount of work planned just to get started, because we're embracing emergence. We're embracing empirical process control. We believe in transparency, inspection, and adaptation, and not necessarily planning everything out up front. And so I've always gone with that guidance, Todd.
Yeah, I think that's great guidance. I mean, if we look at the Scrum Guide 2020, it says that there's 3 topics. Why is the sprint valuable? What can be done this sprint? And how will the chosen work get done? Yeah. And so I think when we start to have the conversation about how the chosen work will get done, like you said, just enough, because if we take our time and come up with an exhaustive plan here, we're just asking for it to go wrong, right? So I think I like what you're saying. I think a plan for the first few days. I've even walked out of this before with really good teams that are like, hey, there's a plan for this afternoon, right? Yeah, you and I are going to start working on this PBI, so-and-so is going to fix that bug quick and then join us, right? So, and that's what we're going to do. Here we go, right?
I think the important thing here is that the developers get to decide. Right. So while I think we have our preferred guidance, if let's say we're doing a 2-week sprint, which means sprint planning would be about 4 hours.
Yeah.
If they want to spend the entire 4 hours getting as detailed a plan as possible about the work that they've selected, go forth and do good things. Developers, go kick some butt. We're with you. However, if you want to decide to do a little bit of and just go get to work, go do that too. Right. I mean, I want to make sure that we're super clear here. The developers decide how best to do their work. And so if they think they need an exhaustive plan during a sprint, create it. If they think, but do it within the time box. Once that time box expires, it's time to hands to keyboards, get the mobs together, get the pairs together, and get to work, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think no sprint is the same. So maybe one sprint, you do need to take a little bit more of an exhaustive approach on it, right? Maybe because of the work that you're facing, it makes a little more sense to start to figure out how to coordinate things a little bit more in advance. Maybe not. Maybe the opposite is true, right? But the reality of it is the outputs of sprint planning. Once we have a sprint goal, once we have some PBIs that the developers have selected for the sprint and a plan, at least in the first couple of days, I think we're good, right?
Yeah, and I think what still holds true is if you look at in Scrum Guide 2020, there's the section on the sprint. Scope may be clarified and renegotiated with the product owner as more is learned. I still think there's language that supports our stance on emergence. And so I'm not too concerned there. I just, you cannot plan complexity perfectly. We say that throughout our entire professional Scrum Master class. You cannot plan complexity perfectly. Stop trying. I'll let emergence help you, but if you need to plan a little bit up front, we're okay with that too.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, Todd. I think that's a good Your Daily Scrum. You know what, everybody? We hope these episodes are helping you. You know, sometimes we take a strong stance. Sometimes we take a lighter one, but we're doing it for your betterment. We want you to think about these things. We want you to apply them. And if we're wrong, do something different.
Yeah.
You know, if we're right, let us know. If we're wrong, let us know. Hit us in the comments. Like and subscribe so you can see the our next day's hot take on whatever topic happens to pop up in this awesome, thriving community on YouTube. Lots of great questions, lots of great conversations. Check out the socials. Check out the videos below. Make sure you're with us for tomorrow. But in the meantime, we hope you go forth, have a great day, deliver some value. Tell us all about it in the comments, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, cheers, everybody.